if you're like us, every year you have a dilemma, right? You've got, if you plant just one hill of cucumbers and something happens to that hill, you don't have any cucumbers. But if you plant 2 hills of cucumbers or more, and they all do well, now you're drowning in cucumbers, right? And we've always just given them away, tried to give them away to people who may or may not also be drowning in cucumbers. And the sad fact is we usually end up composting a fair number of cucumbers. So this year I've decided we're not going to do that. We're going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to figure out how to make pickles. I'm not a particular fan of pickles, but my wife likes them, my family likes them. So we're going to try to do that today. We're going to try to find a way to get some pickles canned. So like I said, I've never done this before, so I had to go out and find a recipe. And I'm a big fan of allrecipes.com. Frankly, it's kind of a crowdsourced recipe box. And I always am able to find good recipes for that. So that's one of the recipes I'm going to be using. I'll put the link to it down below. I don't know, it looks good to me. The first step is to get the cucumber sliced to the right thickness. In this case, we're shooting for about 1/4 inch. Yeah, you can do it by hand, but here's where a tool really comes in handy. This mandolin slicer really makes this work quick. Okay, so we start off with 1/2 cup of canning salt, 2 quarts of water. Stir that until the salt's dissolved. Next we add the cucumbers and some ice, and we let them soak for 2 hours. Okay, so next we add 6 cups of white sugar, which seems like a lot to me, but that's what it calls for. 4 cups of water, which is the same as 1 quart of water, which I don't understand why they don't just say 1 quart of water, but I'll get into that rant here in a minute. 4 cups or 1 quart of apple cider vinegar, 4 teaspoons of turmeric, 4 teaspoons of mustard seed, and 1 teaspoon of celery seed. We bring this to a boil. Now, while I had to triple the recipe for the brine that the cucumbers were soaking in, I'm not going to triple this recipe. First of all, I'm not sure I have that much sugar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to a boil. Then I'm going to add enough cucumbers till the cucumbers are covered. So in other words, there's no cucumbers out of this solution. And process that. You then just basically reheat, bring the cucumbers up to heat, and then put them in the jars, the sterilized jars. I'll show you how it goes. But short version is I'm going to just process enough to use up all of this solution. And then if I still need more solution to finish up the cucumbers, then I'll make that. So even though we're not pressure canning these pickles, we don't need to because the acidity will preserve the food. So even though we're not pressure canning them, we still need to sanitize the jars and the rings and the lids. The jars I did in my dishwasher, which has a setting to take care of that. And the lids and the rings I'm going to go ahead and put into some boiling water and boil them for 5 minutes. It's not boiling yet, but once it gets up to boiling, I will boil it for 5 minutes. You'll notice that I took the rings out of a Ziploc bag, rings we've used before, but the lids I'm taking out of a brand new package. You don't reuse lids. You can reuse rings, but you don't reuse lids, unless they're the Tattler or some other type of lid that's designed to be reused. Okay, so our headspace is pretty shallow in this case, again, because we're not going to be processing them in the canner. So we want to take this up to within 1/4 inch of the top of the jar. know we've got to get some of this liquid in here too. What you don't want is pickles that are sticking up above the top of the liquid. That is no bueno, no good. Looks pretty good. Push the pickles down below the level of the liquid as much as possible. Pour around to give us a good seal. As soon as our lids are done, we can finish up our first one. Well, I'm done. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody else in the house has been in bed for hours, but gotta get this stuff done before it goes bad. So we got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 pints of bread and butter pickles. We'll probably use 3 or 4 of those ourselves, and the rest we'll put in our gift baskets for the holidays. So not too bad, better than letting them go to waste. And tomorrow I've got, what do I have to do? The zucchini relish and the rhubarb jam. And going to have to pick some blackberries and probably more green beans to get to. We're in the middle of blanching green beans for freezing too, so no good deed goes unpunished, I guess. Okay, so we're all done. The only thing that's left is to shake these once a day for 2 weeks. I assume the idea there is if there are any cucumbers sticking up out of the vinegar, that it makes sure they're coated and saturated. So we're all done, and in a couple of weeks we'll be able to see how these taste. Now for a little bit of a pet peeve. All the recipe sites and everything put things in a particular unit of measure. For example, when we were doing some of this stuff, it called for 4 cups. Well, yeah, I can measure out 4 cups, but 4 cups also equals a quart. So it's much easier for me just to measure it by a quart. Now, you know, if it's an individual in a written recipe book or something like that, this won't work. But the websites, allrecipes.com, food.com, all the other recipe sites, you certainly have the technology to change the unit of measure for a specific ingredient. So do that, right? The second thing is, I forget exactly how many this recipe called for, but it gave a specific number of cucumbers. Well, this is a cucumber, and this is a cucumber. And I think we can all agree that these two things are not the same, and if you put in 10 of these, it's different than putting in 10 of these. So instead of listing it in terms of the number of an item, put it in terms of weight or volume. It just makes more sense. Weight would be preferable. Volume would also work, or at least work better than this. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please make sure and give us a like down below. And if you're interested in living a more self-sufficient lifestyle, please check us out at selfsufficientpath.com.